Hello everyone, my name is Roya and today I'm coming to you with the books that I read in the latter half of October. My last reading wrap-up was basically a ginormous rant about how all the books were really meh and devoid of enough developmental editing and all of that fun stuff. But this time I definitely did have a lot better reads in the latter half of the month. That doesn't mean they were stellar, but overall I had a much better reading experience and I felt at least like the books were a lot less flat. So anyway, I will just get started. So Beauty by Robin McKinley. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling pretty much straight up. It does get pretty creative in a lot of this stuff, the details and such as our Beauty character has, you know, two sisters who are more beautiful than her and she's not actually very beautiful and all that other stuff. So her nickname of Beauty is a totally sarcastic nickname, basically, all of that. But overall, so there were some parts in this that were really good and I was really getting into it, but there were also a lot of gaping plot holes and stuff that was just not explained. And so overall, I really enjoyed reading this, but it wasn't actually great, especially for Robin McKinley. You would think that her work would be a little bit more thought out the way that it usually is, all of that. The Penguin Book of Witches, this was pretty lackluster actually. I thought this was going to be a lot more interesting. It's basically a compilation of documentation from the Salem witch trials, and so there was some interesting stuff in it about, you know, how the women were treated, how people thought that anybody was a witch and all that other stuff. There's one woman who, for instance, was basically blamed for being a witch just because she was in poverty, because her husband left her in poverty, and that was really it. There's like no basis to any of this, and it definitely does make you think about how you know, it's really just a way of demonizing women, and that was kind of it, obviously. But overall, reading this was pretty boring. It was there just wasn't a lot to it, I guess, aside from just straight up text, and it was not a quick read at all, despite being a very short book. So but overall, I'm definitely glad that I at least read it. The 13th Child, this was really good. This is about basically a girl who is the 13th child in her family. Her family can't take care of 12 children, let alone 13, so they basically give her to a god who trains her to be a healer, and she ends up being called to go and save the king from a very weird, mysterious illness. So this was really good. It definitely does make you think about death and what is kind of meant to be versus not and all of that. But also, there definitely were some things that felt very truncated about the story, and I think overall it could have been a lot better thought out, but it was really good. It was so good, in fact, that I was listening to it on audiobook, and then I also ended up checking out the ebook because I just wanted to get through it faster, and I wanted to keep reading it when I wasn't reading the audiobook, and that definitely means that it was at least really good if I decided to, you know, not just wait until the next time I was listening to an audiobook to read it. The next book is The Princess Knight. I was a little disappointed in this one. I thought it was really good. It was a good idea and a good story. It's basically, it really satisfied my my urge for kind of princess fighting school type of stories. This is about a princess who goes to be a knight after her fiance ends up saying, actually, we shouldn't get married because he thinks that she's like just a pretty girl who has no substance, even though she does, and she's literally just been playing a part. But there were definitely a lot of details to this story that just were not important. And like, for example, it keeps coming up that our main character is really good at making clothing, and she makes dresses like for a hobby and all that stuff. She like loves doing that. But that adds absolutely nothing to the plot. I was expecting that to be some kind of actual part to the story, but it really wasn't at all. It just kept coming up for absolutely no reason. And so there were a few things like that where the thought outedness was just not there. There were things about this book that were just profoundly unpolished. Even though I was reading this as a review copy, this was a review ebook, but so you expect some of that. But there was a lot. Like, I hesitate to believe that it is just the fact that it was a review copy that made it unpolished like that, because usually by that point it is at least more than that. So maybe some of the stuff was resolved in the finished copy, but I doubt that it all was. So because overall the whole story felt a little bit unpolished, but it wasn't bad. There were definitely parts that really made me continue reading and be getting really into it. So it was, and like I said, it gave me the satisfaction I needed for a particular plot, of a particular plot. So I definitely did think it was good for that. The Hymn to Dionysus, this is basically, I don't know how to describe this story other than to say it was weirdly similar plot-wise and tone-wise to the Thief series, which I really love. And so the vibes that I got from this book that were similar to that were so good, and I really liked it for that. But overall, I did think that this story could have had more as well. It was obviously not like the Thief series entirely, because of course No But Nothing can compare to that. That is one of my favorite series as ever. And then we have Red Hood. This is a story about a girl who gets her period and finds that when she is on her period, she has heightened senses and can stop werewolves from killing people. And the wolves are, well, not even werewolves, they're just wolves, but the wolves are boys who become wolves when they are being jerks to women, basically. So this was really good. I really liked it. I did, however, think that the main plot of it could have used a lot more explanation, because there is a kind of big reveal and everything that just made no sense, and we just don't get the details. And a lot of the story, the kind of backstory of our main character and all of that just didn't add up. Just not everything was thought out the way that it should have been. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I seriously could not put this one down, and it was just so good and a really good idea. I mean, seriously. And it also does a really good job of showing, like, friendships and how you can be there for somebody, and relationships, and what makes what a good relationship should look like, and all of that. And I thought that for a young adult book, that was very spot on and really good, and I really liked it. The Menopause Manifesto, I read this because I read Blood that I mentioned in my last wrap up, and really enjoyed it. And that was basically all about menstruation and the data behind it and the societal issues behind it, and just what to expect with regards to what is normal when it comes to menstruation. This one talks about menopause in much the same manner. I definitely feel that it was good to read, even though I'm not quite there yet. It is pretty much right around the corner, and I think that it is really good to get informed about this stuff before you actually need to know it. So it was definitely really good in that way. I did, however, not really appreciate the fact that it kind of turns into a diet book for part of it, and I was kind of like, okay, like, I'm vegan, I don't even remotely relate to like half of the diet stuff that is discussed in this. I read my own, I read separate things when it comes to diet related stuff because I am vegan, and I do not relate to a typical discussion of what constitutes, diet and consumables and all of that other stuff. But anyway, so I already so that whole part, because that felt like it went on for quite a while. It was just about kind of diet and what's good for you and what's not. And I'm like, I already know this by virtue of not eating any of that. So I don't know. And finally, Night Witches. This is basically about the Night Witches, the Russian bombers during World War II. Basically, it follows this girl who becomes a soldier. She wanted to be one of the Night Witches, but she was not able to do that at that time, but her sister was. And so she does become a soldier, but she's just like, why can't I be in the Night Witches? That would be great. That would be so much better than sitting in this trench and blah, blah, blah. But then she does end up going to join the Night Witches, and then she ends up being on the ground crew instead of being a pilot or a navigator, any of the stuff that she actually knows how to do. Just because, you know, she doesn't have the in-air combat experience necessarily, and they're at the point where they need to have that. So she does just make the best out of the situation and does the best job that she can to make the ground crew better and more efficient, and she does so well that she does get to be a navigator, and then she does get to be a pilot. And so it was a really good story. It was really short. The audiobook only took me like 3 hours to listen to at like twice the speed, so it was really good. I really liked it. I thought that I do prefer the Daughters of the Night Sky, which is an adult versus as opposed to young adult story that's similar, but I still really enjoyed this one. So anyway, those are the books that I read in the latter half of October. Let me know if you have any thoughts on any of these books, if you've read any of these in the comments, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!